featuring Commissioner Nancy Jackson from District 4. These are quarterly events that we do with each commissioner in their district. They typically are in person, but obviously this year we've had to change that up a little bit. So we're going with these virtual events, and although it's not quite the same as being in person, it is good to get a lot more people on the call. So what we're going to do tonight is run through some of the latest updates to county business. And then we will take your questions. If you want to ask a question, and you're calling in, you should dial *3 on your phone, and that will put you through to an operator. Or if you're watching online, you can plug a comment or question into the comments box on the webpage you're visiting. And we will answer some basic COVID questions we've had some recent news, of course, with COVID measures being changed up. We don't have any medical experts on this call, but we can certainly answer questions you have about how this will affect certain elements of the county and that kind of thing. And with that, I would like to welcome Commissioner Nancy Jackson.
Thank you, Luke, and hello, everybody. This is really different than our little cozy coffee with the commissioner, but then so many more people can join us, so that's really great. As Luke said, I'm Nancy Jackson, the county commissioner for this district. I am a Colorado native. I went to school, some of my school years here in Aurora. All of my kids, I have 3 kids, 3 grandkids, and all of my children attended school right here in Aurora. So this is basically home for me. We're going to go through a number of things this evening. We'll try not to go too fast, but we got some good feedback, and I agreed that we don't want to do talking the whole night. We want plenty of time for your questions. But that being said, we do have some updates. We're going to talk a little bit about COVID. We're going to talk about our strategic plan. We have a new strategic plan at the county. We've got an open spaces master plan under development, a transportation master plan that we're developing. And then finally, we're going to talk about Arapahoe County's response to COVID. And certainly, we're going to try to have plenty of time for your questions and comments. So first, if you'll change the slide to COVID, right. So this is constantly changing, and it's frustrating for everyone when the public orders keep changing, but the numbers keep increasing, and what we are trying to do, and when I say we, CDPHE, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, as well as our own Tri-County Health Department, look at the data and give us their advice, and often they're the ones who issue the public health orders. So this week, CDPHE, the Colorado Public Health and Environment Department, moved us from level 2 to level 3, or in other words, from yellow to orange. We really do have, some of our numbers are in the red zone, but we are trying our best, the state and Tri-County Health, to keep businesses open, to allow kids to go to school, but there are fewer people allowed in public gatherings, as you may excuse me, as you may have already heard. One statistic I heard today that kind of brought it home for me is that last week our number was something like 90, 1 out of 100 was likely to have contacted COVID in our area, and now it's 8 out of 100. So the numbers are really, really skyrocketing really rapidly. So we are trying to work with our businesses and organizations to modify as much as they can, again, to make sure that our businesses can stay open. If you can go to the Tri-County website, TCHD, TriCountyHealthDepartment.org, There's a lot of data there. There's lots of graphs, and they even break it down into neighborhoods for you to look at. And they will also answer your questions more specifically. So we're going to work on this particular level and these measures for a couple of weeks, and then we may have to modify again. I want to ask you to look for our telephone town halls that we have often with Dr. Douglas from Tri-County Health. You can sign up on our website for updates at arapahoegov.com so that you have the latest information possible. It's also important that as we enter the holiday time, please, we say it over and over and over again, please wear your mask, wash your hands, keep your distance. It is true that a lot of our little friendship gatherings and informal gatherings, I just heard of a bunko party where everyone who was at that party got COVID. So we know we like to have fun. We like to mingle with our friends, but please, please be careful and limit the number of people in your interactions. In fact, Governor Polis is urging us to only interact with members of our household, not our family, but our household. It's not a formal order, but it is a request, hopefully, so that it won't have to be a formal order. So stay tuned for more information on COVID. It is changing rapidly, unfortunately, and we're doing our best to communicate to everyone what the changes are. But we're doing our best again to keep things as open as can be. So moving on to the strategic plan, I'm going to talk a little bit about, we've kind of reoriented our mission, vision, our goals, our outcomes, and our values. And I want to kind of go into each of those just a little bit. So our mission and vision is to enhance your quality of life through exceptional delivery of services and efficient use of public funds, which supports a diverse and vibrant county where residents and businesses thrive. So we have some goals and outcomes, 3 goals. One is to be fiscally sustainable, and we're going to do that by funding mandated services to meet the best practices and required standards, by considering strategic use of debt, and ensuring structurally balanced budgets, and by striving for efficiency. We do a lot of business process improvement programs. Our second goal is to provide essential and mandated services. That's basically what we do. And we're going to do that by performing them as stipulated in the statutes and regulations, and at the same time by remaining as responsive as we can to our community interests. Our third goal is to be community focused. After all, it's our residents who we serve. We're going to do that by promoting thriving communities, by fostering personal safety and security, by nurturing individual and collective opportunities, by providing a natural, healthy environment, and by supporting opportunities for promoting physical and mental health. So in order to do that, we have defined 4 essential values. The first one is accountability, and we're going to do that by building public trust in our integrity and sharing data and information that demonstrates our commitments. The second one is accessibility. We're going to do that by providing our services in a variety of ways to ensure that we're accessible to our entire community. So not just things online, not just on the phone. We are keeping our walk-in services and our outreach at the best we can given the circumstances. And the third is inclusivity, by engaging with the community and seeking opportunities for cross-cultural representation and recruitment. And then the fourth of our values is integrity, really important. by doing what we say we will, by being responsive and willing to admit and correct mistakes. We all make mistakes. So that's the essence, if you will, of our new strategic plan. This will then fold down into our various departments and divisions, and will be reflected in basically in our budget, how we spend money, how we spend time, how we do what it is that we do. So these are our sort of guidelines. It's the very high 30,000 foot view, but it will be implemented in much more practical ways. So now I want to move on to our open spaces master plan. This is really exciting. I think hopefully all of you have had a chance to get out and visit a park or a trail or even one of our heritage sites and see the wonderful things that your quarter sales tax funds. So we recently closed. So we are going to be doing a new master plan, and we just recently closed that public comment period for the open spaces program. But as I mentioned before, it's a quarter-cent sales tax. It's our only sales tax, and it funds parks, trails, and open spaces. And so now that we've had this program for a number of years, it's time to plan for the future. So we're going to be creating a strategy for preserving the open space in the county. So preserving what we already have, examining how we maintain, how we care for and enhance the properties that we already have, and what are we going to do about extending the tax in the future? This tax expires in 2 years, and we need to take a look at whether or not we want to ask you to renew that tax. And if so, how do we want to plan for that? So watch for opportunities to engage with our open spaces team, find out more about the ways in which we hope to acquire new open spaces and effectively manage that which we already have. So again, open spaces, we'll be doing a master plan, and you will be certain to hear more about that. And next, I'll briefly touch on our transportation master plan. At the beginning of COVID, traffic kind of slowed down when we were all staying at home, and we had fewer complaints. But I think everybody's out and about again, and transportation is a hot topic. I'm sure it is for you. So we are working on this year a transportation master plan. We are, taking a look at all of our issues across the county. As we grow, and Arapahoe County has really been growing quite a bit, we work with our municipal partners and our residents to ensure that we can manage growth and traffic congestion and look for alternative modes of transportation. I'll tell you what, when I get on I-225 to go to the highway, and if you do too, I'm sure you understand what the word congestion means. So we've been engaging with cities to figure out if there's a better way to fund our infrastructure. And we're engaging with those cities and individuals to try and figure out where do we want to go in the future with transportation. Statewide, voters have rejected funding options based on taxes. So we are trying to be creative and use partnering and so on to do the best we can. We've encouraged citizen participation throughout the process. We have an interactive commenting map that people have engaged in by noting where they experience the most congestion or safety issues. We also have an idea wall for virtual sticky notes for your ideas and an online survey. Thanks to those of you who've already submitted comments and ideas. But if you're looking to do so, please go to our website, www.arapahoegov.com/transportation. And if you like, keep visiting that site for more updates as to what the next steps will be. So, next topic is, what is Arapahoe County doing about COVID? Arapahoe County Cares is a program that arose from the federal dollars for coronavirus aid and that was passed last spring. And it gave us $114.5 million to finance COVID-related relief programs and services. It's a lot of money. However, we are sharing about 45% of the funds, or about $51.6 million, with our 13 communities. So Aurora, everywhere from Aurora to Bannock, Littleton, and so on. The amounts are allocated by population size, and we're using the rest of the overall amount to fund everything from making our own facilities safer to supporting our residents, particularly our vulnerable populations. We've already rolled out numerous programs and will continue to do so through the end of 2020. If the funds aren't spent by the end of 2020, by December, then the government takes it back. So we have to spend it. So far, we have provided hundreds of county businesses with millions of dollars in grants. So that helps sustain the businesses and helps them provide protective PPE, as well as funding for just the money they've lost. We also helped several hundred households with rent and mortgage assistance, and we just recently added more money, about $500,000 to that program. We're funding our nonprofit health centers, food banks, homeless partners to address behavioral and physical health, food and housing insecurity. We've partnered with Stride, the Steve Aurora, and Lincoln Health to offer mobile testing across the county. And we've opened a couple of new testing sites. We reopened the sports park off of Colfax, and also a testing site at the city of Centennial. We are supporting Tri-County Health and others in contact tracing and other health department needs. We've augmented the county's early warning data system with sewage water testing. This is so interesting. It's called BioBots. They test the sewer water and with CU anschutz to tell the infection rate. And it's a kind of an early warning system. And we've implemented facility improvements consistent with best practices, providing PPE for employees and guests so that you can come in if you have an appointment and go to motor vehicles and feel safe. So, next slide. I think, yes, next slide. You can see the CARES Act funding impacts most clearly in our community resources and human services departments. Community Resources, working with AD Works, our Workforce Development Center, is hosting regular webinars around hiring, skills training, and retraining, and programs that match employers with prospective employees. I don't know how many businesses are now on that weekly call, but it's a real benefit for our county businesses to be able to join in on that call and learn about all these best practices and funding that's available to business. We're continuing to administer our programs for veterans and seniors, as well as many others. So you can go to the website adworks.org. That's adworks.org to find out more about these programs for even unemployment insurance, or if you have a business and you are looking for some resources. adworks.org is really a good resource for you. Next slide. In our Human Services Department, we've used CARES funding to create hotel and motel vouchers for people who are experiencing homelessness as a result of COVID, or who need temporary housing because COVID has made it unsafe for them to live at home. So if you can't live at home and you need another place to go, we supply hotel or motel vouchers for those folks. We've also established a similar program to provide funding for food banks and Meals on Wheels that have been affected by the crisis, on top of the programs, the many programs that we already administer. We've used CARES funding to reimburse behavioral and physical health organizations for telehealth, for PPE, and sanitation supplies. So we're doing a lot to help businesses and individuals who've been impacted by COVID. So that, I think, is all my formal notes. We want to thank you very much for participating with us. And if you need anything, if you want to contact me, my email is njackson@arapahoegov.com. That's njackson@arapahoegov.com. And now Luke is going to help me field some questions that you may have concerning any of these topics, or maybe something else that is of interest to you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Commissioner. We already have some questions lined up, and I just want to remind you, the listeners or viewers, if you are on the phone, you want to ask the Commissioner a question, you should dial *3, and that'll put you through to an operator. And if you are watching online, you can type a question into the comment field, and it will come up on our little dashboard here. And so obviously COVID is top of mind for everybody, and we touched on it a few times in this, and I have a couple of COVID questions already lined up here. What's when you mentioned Thanksgiving and the governor's wish that we all not interact with people from our own, or that we only interact with people from our households, that has, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner, I believe that the state has made Thanksgiving Day itself exempt from that. But we're still really stressing the need to be safe, and I think you touched on that during your initial remarks. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, I was in meetings all day centering on homelessness, so I did not hear the governor's remarks today. All I got was some emails and some later briefings. But my recommendation is, even if you gather with your immediate family, you want to be very, very careful. And I have read some materials that say even if you're with family, keep distant, and if possible, wear masks when you're not eating. So as much as we love family, and all of my family is here in the metro area, and it's really hard not to hug my grandchildren and so on. But please do the best you can, because we want to stop the spread, and we want to keep you as healthy as can be. So it's a hard year for all of us. And Thanksgiving, we got a message from Aurora Mental Health today from the CEO of Aurora Mental Health, and Kelly Phillips Henry. And she talks about gratitude, and that Thanksgiving is the time for gratitude. So if we can focus on the things for which we are grateful, and try to limit your contact.
Absolutely. And along those lines, can you just tell the audience a little bit how the board sort of receives these updates from CDPHE and Tri-County, and what's the board's role in sort of managing these new developments and getting the word out?
Thank you. That's a really good question. We meet with Tri-County Health at least once a week, sometimes more often. We have been meeting with the governor in various groups. Lately, it's been almost once a week. CDPHE, we've been meeting with CDPHE about once a week as well. So we have all these conversations. We ourselves do not make the decisions around the public health orders. That is something that is the public health departments. However, we consult with them. We talk about what the conditions are here in Arapahoe County, the kinds of things our citizens are telling us, and so that it's a communication process. But we don't. The board does not make the final decision. The state makes it, or Tri-County Health makes that decision. We have a pretty significant role in working with our cities to uh, communicate and to make sure that everybody's questions are answered and that we're all on board with whatever the changes are. It's a massive communication effort, um, and sometimes things get a little bumpy, but we try our very, very hardest to meet once or twice a week. Sometimes this week we've had sort of emergency meetings. We had one meeting at 5:30 in the afternoon this week with our cities to talk about the latest public health orders and answer questions and so on. So we're trying to stay on top of the changes and communicate them to you, to our cities, to our city councils, our mayors, and so on, so that we're all on the same page and so that we understand the reasons for the decisions. I myself check the Tri-County Health webpage for data every day because it changes that fast.
Question about that. I think one of the follow-ups people might have to that is we hear stuff from the governor's office and CDPHE, we hear stuff from whatever city we live in, and then we hear stuff from the counties. And sometimes they either contradict each other, or maybe one thing supersedes another thing. What sort of advice would you give people for there's this mountain of data and news that's pouring out all the time?
It's a mountain of data and it changes all the time. So it's very confusing, and I get it. And like I say, that's why I check the website. Your best bet is to do the strongest thing you can, if you will. Sometimes the governor says something for the whole state. And if it's for the whole state, it applies to us. We also have Tri-County Health, which is Adams, Arapahoe, and Douglas. And sometimes we have different, for example, what we do may be different than what Denver does, or what Boulder does, or what Otero County does, or Mesa, or so on. So the governor's looking out for the whole state, whereas Tri-County Health is looking out for these three counties. That being said, the data is really different. This is even more confusing because the data is different for Adams as it is for Arapahoe, as it is for Douglas. Adams County data is, their spread is much, much faster than ours. So we're in the middle, both geographically and in terms of spread. Douglas is slower. They have less population. That being said, I would, if I were you, looking for one source of data, I would check Tri-County Health because they include the materials for the state as well as for our county. So listen to the governor for sure, but Tri-County Health will give you the best advice. And they have a question line where you can submit your individual questions and get them answered.
Excellent. So we're going to open it up to some audience questions here. We have more than 420 people currently watching or listening. And just to remind you, if you're on the phone and want to ask a question, dial *3, and we'll put you right through. Right now, we're going to get a question from Michael in Aurora. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, before I ask my question, I just have to say I moved here 4 years ago, and I swear it's like a utopia. it's not just that COVID hit and everybody came together. I felt like people came together long before that. And I know I'm maybe drinking the Kool-Aid a bit, but I don't know. It's just an amazing place. There's 420 people in this call. It's just fantastic. But I am skirting homelessness. It's just one of those things. Living in an RV, not hooked up often. And I really loved going to the rec center before all this happened. Is there any chance it's going to open on a limited basis anytime in the future? Or perhaps if we learn that people who have gotten COVID are not going to get it again, is it possibly going to be resources available for folks who have had it? I know that maybe sounds a little bit cruel, but these resources are wonderful and really helpful, and perhaps on a limited basis they too could open up. I don't know how many resources are available, but that was something that I was using often. And I was wondering if there was anything discussion about the plans to reopen it, even on a limited basis, the rec center that they built.
The rec centers. So you're talking about gyms and rec centers? I'm sorry, your voice kind of got muffled there.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, rec centers would fall into the same category as gyms.
Yeah. It's now this is really a question for Tri-County Health, but it's my understanding that they are limiting, and I don't know I have a chart here that I got from the state. See, look at this. I don't have it memorized. So I'm looking on it, and so it will say, let me see here, gyms and fitness under orange, which we are, 25% capacity, 25 people indoors or outdoors in groups of less than 10. So gyms and rec centers can be open, but at a very limited basis. So I would call your gym, I would call your rec center, see if you have to make an appointment, see if they have some kind of schedule for that. But the state is doing, and Tri-County Health are doing all they can to keep things open. And they do have to limit these things. But this is straight from the state's website, and it shows you the colors at the top, and then it has all these different on the side, the different organizations, offices, bars, gyms, et cetera, et cetera. So if you don't want to call Tri-County Health and just get your question directly answered, you can look that up online yourself.
Yeah, we at the county we consult that chart probably 3 or 4 times a day just to clarify what's okay in one venue versus another one, and we get a lot of questions about that from our residents and business owners. So the other thing to know is Tri-County's reporting line is 303-220-9200. So if you have a question for them, or need information of any kind, you can call them. But again, like the commissioner said, visiting their site is a great idea. Still on COVID, we're going to take an online question here. Let's see here. What is the county? You touched on this a little bit in the CARES descriptions, but what is the county doing to support residents' mental health during this crisis?
Well, I happen to be on the board of Aurora Mental Health, and this is an issue that is really important to me. We are supporting our mental health organizations with CARES funds so that they can stay open, and they can, many of them switched to telehealth, and that is expensive, and so we helped with our CARES fund on that. We are supporting a number of outreach programs as well with some smaller nonprofits. We're so aware of that issue, and in fact, I had a conversation today with the board of Aurora Mental Health, and talked about how with the new public health orders, with the holidays, with the cold weather, anxiety, depression, all these things are going to be building up on folks. And so it's really important that we support our mental health organizations, and we are doing what we can. And we also had at least one telephone town hall with our behavioral health organizations so that people could ask their questions directly. We also are publicizing. I'm looking for the card. The crisis line, so that if you are in crisis, or you feel that you know someone who is in crisis, you can call 1-844-493-TALK, or 844-493-8255, and that's the crisis line, and someone will answer that phone. A counselor will answer that phone and give you some advice as to if you need more help, or just to uh, help you think through the situation.
And the excuse me, the town hall that the commissioner mentioned, we did that I think about 6 or 8 weeks ago, and it included all 5 commissioners and a bunch of mental health experts it was very informative. And so if you wanted, and we recorded it, so you can listen to it by going to arapahogov.com/town hall. And you should just scroll down. We've done a lot of town halls lately, but it should be very easy to find, and it's about an hour long, and it has great information. So if you do have mental health concerns or questions, that's a good place to start. The other thing we've been talking about with this the chart is that that's on the state website, and that's going to be at covid19.colorado.gov. So that's also a very good resource for all things COVID, including our next question, which is, will Arapahoe, or does Arapahoe have any free testing sites for residents who live in the unincorporated parts of the county?
Well, even though the sites in Centennial or in Aurora, they're not, they don't belong to those cities. So the testing sites are available to anyone who wishes to get tested. So that's not an issue. You're not asked where you live.
No. And and if you do live far out, the Bennett Elementary School is going to have free drive-up testing from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. tomorrow, November 13th, and then again a week from tomorrow on November 20th. So Bennett Elementary School from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. There are a number of free testing sites, as the commissioner mentioned. We just opened one in Centennial. The Aurora Sports Park one just this week moved over to Del Mar Park, which is at near 6th Avenue, 225. So if you live closer to Aurora or in Aurora, that's a good spot. And then some of our testing partners are doing mobile or pop-up testing sites. And again, all the testing resources you can find on Tri-County's website or at 211colorado.org. But there are actually quite a few testing sites now open, and we're seeing really good traffic there. The wait time's not too long. It's always free. You don't need to have health insurance. So anyone who thinks they might have been exposed should, or are, if they are symptomatic, they should get tested at the place that's most convenient to them. And then also to double back on the last question, the mental health question, the Colorado Spirit program is something that helps with mental health issues, and that is at 720-707-6789. So we're pressing on here. I'm going to go to another phone question. Again, if you want to ask a question on the phone, dial *3. This one is Juanita in Aurora, who has a question for the commissioner. Go ahead, Juanita.
Good person.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, I was wondering, I'm a school bus driver, and I see throughout the day many sports activities going on, softball, track, football, and, they're asking the kids to wear their masks and stay social distance, but driving around and seeing this, they're not. I see groups of 20 to 30 kids together, no masks. And I'm wondering, in my mind, is this some of the reason that COVID is spreading? And, now we've just shut down yesterday for Cherry Creek. I'm wondering if, when we go back, if we can limit the sports, anything that would possibly help this out.
That's really a good observation, Juanita, and very difficult, as you know. Kids don't always obey the rules, and if there isn't a supervisor there to make sure that they keep their distance and wear their masks, especially when they're playing, it is really hard. Again, we don't make the rules, but it is something that we can alert the public health director to, and perhaps educate some of the coaches and teachers that work with those kids, because it is a problem, and so many incidents of people who are asymptomatic. They don't look like they're sick, they don't feel like they're sick, nevertheless they're carrying the virus. So that's a really good thing to recognize, and as we go forward, something that we'll have to think about. We don't have a police or sheriff's department that goes around arresting people for not wearing masks or anything like that. So enforcement is pretty much social, kind of influence one another, and if people aren't kind of keeping tabs on each other and saying, hey, um, please help me stay safe and wear your mask, and you know keep your distance a little bit. It seems so unfriendly, but it is what we have to do these days. So thank you for your comments, and you stay safe.
That actually feeds into an online question we have from Teresa, who is asking what is being done to enforce the mask mandate at businesses within the county. You just mentioned that it's very difficult to do that. What kind of conversations have we had with the sheriff's office or any other relevant parties about enforcement?
If it's really egregious, there have been a couple of cases where it's really by complaint. Somebody calls and complains, and sometimes someone from Tri-County Health, and they're overburdened. I mean, they're shorthanded, like everybody in the health field right now, so they're shorthanded, but they may send someone out, and they may suggest that they follow the guidelines. We don't arrest people, we don't fine people, and we really don't have any plans to do that, but we really need to enlist everyone's cooperation. We wear seatbelts. We don't smoke in restaurants anymore. That was a real hard thing for people to get through. And mask wearing now is one of those things that, for the protection of myself and for you, I need to wear my mask and wash my hands.
And as far as Arapahoe County goes, I know in Denver, businesses themselves can get some kind of fine or ticket or something if they don't have the correct measures in place. Does that occur down here as well, down in Arapahoe County?
I don't know of any cases where that's happened. That's not to say
Okay.
it couldn't, but I don't think we've gone that route so far.
Okay. Couple more COVID related questions here. I can answer this one real quickly. The turnaround time for results of COVID testing is about 2 to 4 days, depending on the site and the volume of people going through there. And then the other thing to keep in mind about testing and restrictions and all of it is that Aurora, which is a big chunk of the commissioner's district, is actually divided across 3 counties. So the restrictions may vary. They're probably a little more uniform this week because everybody's kind of moving to the orange level, but that's something to keep in mind depending on where you live or work in Aurora, that it can vary. And that leads me to this next question. Do the cities coordinate their efforts, or do they simply do their own thing with respect to COVID issues? And if not, can you explain how the cities and counties work together?
Well, we do have calls, like I said, once or twice a week with our city partners, and the public health orders come from Tri-County Health or the state. They don't come from the county. So it's really not up to the city to, in this case, when we had exemptions, when people could apply for exemptions and so on, then there were some variations. Right now, that's off the table. Everybody's on the same page in terms of Arapahoe County. And so there is communication, but there should not be any difference in terms of what Aurora does, what Centennial does, what Littleton does. We're all on the same calls. We all get the same information. And I hope that helps.
Absolutely. So another thing that has come up this year, probably with more focus than in the past, is the issue of homelessness throughout the metro area. It's not just a big city issue anymore. So, Commissioner, I know you've worked real closely on this throughout your career. So tell us a little bit about, you mentioned the CARES stuff and community resources and human services. What sort of work have you done on these issues and are continuing to do?
Well, it's a huge and complex issue, and I don't think we have all day to talk about it. What we are doing now is two separate things. Aside from our nonprofits, our behavioral health organizations that do some outreach and that work directly with homeless folks, the eviction prevention, the food, all of those things that we mentioned earlier that we do. It's just what we do. We also have started a homelessness group across the county to talk about interventions and common best practices. What can we do? We don't have enough money to build housing. One of my favorite slogans is the solution to homelessness is housing, but we don't have the funds to build housing. I'm not sure. Um, it's just not doable at this point in time, that's for sure. So what can we do? What are humane best practices? What are the resources that we can use across the county so that we're not just shuffling people back and forth from one place to another, but we're doing things in a humane and safe way to help people. So we are coordinating that with that committee across the county to be as helpful as possible and maximize our resources. And then as part of our Justice Coordinating Committee, we are looking at trying to find funding to actually build some housing for our folks in the criminal justice system. As we know, it's hard for folks to get a job if they don't have a home. It's hard for folks to get stabilized in terms of the behavioral health or physical health if they don't have a home. And so it is doubly hard if you have a record, if you have been involved in the criminal justice system, to find someone to rent for you or to you. And so we are looking at working with the state and others to try and figure out a way to fund some kind of building to house folks with criminal justice, perhaps behavioral health, physical health, other kinds of complex issues. The Tri-Cities, which is Littleton, Englewood, and Sheridan, just recently did a study with DU about the issues of homelessness in their area, and what they found is really appropriate, that most people who see, I could talk about this forever, so I'll stop in a minute, but from complex issues, it's not just one thing. This is usually what happens is that people who just barely, living paycheck to paycheck, if they lose their job, if they have a big a medical expense, if there are other issues in their life, just tips that needle a little bit. Domestic violence is another cause. It's usually very complex situations that folks end up homeless. And once you're homeless, it's really hard to get back again. So we're working on what we can do here in the county and providing as many services as we can in the meantime.
Yeah, we could certainly do an entire town hall about this and not cover everything. And the concern now, of course, is that there are the people that you're talking about that are just a paycheck away or a missed paycheck away from being homeless. That number could increase in the coming months. So along those lines, this is an online question. When COVID is over, whenever that might be, where would you like to see the county's focus directed?
Wow. Well, when COVID is over, we still have the same issues, right? So whether you're talking about vulnerable populations, whether you're talking about open spaces, transportation, our budget, those are the things that are continuing no matter what else is going on. COVID is only adding sort of a deep layer of complexity to everything else that we do, but we still have people who need food stamps. We still have folks who are needing our temporary aid to needy families. We still have people who need jobs. All of these services that we provide, there's still a need for that, and so we will still be doing what we do. But it might feel easier without COVID.
Let's hope so. Practical question. So the recent election resulted in Arapahoe County. Looks like we're going to get one new commissioner, and then there's another race that still is too close to call. When do the new commissioners get sworn in, or you get resworn?
Right. Luke, you may know the exact date. It's in January. So tomorrow, tomorrow's the 13th. Tomorrow, the results from the election from clerk and recorder will be renewed, and we may have more information on the District 3 race. That's still uncertain. But commissioners are sworn in January, I think maybe the second week of January. And
Sounds right. Yeah, I don't know the exact date.
we have a ceremony, and of course, this year it'll be online, and we get sworn in at that time, and then the new commissioners will take their place right there and then.
All righty. We have time for one or two more questions. What do you, as we head into the holiday season of a very tough year, looking back, what are you most proud of about the county and about the work we've done this year, and about the situation in the county, I guess?
So what I'm really most proud of, Luke, and those of you in the audience, is how quickly the folks who work at the county have turned on a dime to continue the services that we provide without dropping a beat. We, in March, like everybody else, really, we had to close our doors. We had to have people working from home. We had to set up new internet protocols, do things in different ways, and still provide these services to our residents. And that happened. And people did not complain. We didn't hear any complaints. We heard all kinds of creative ideas and ways for folks to do business in new ways. And sometimes people would say, well, we've always wanted to do this online. We just never got around to it. And now we have to get around to it. And so there you are. So I'm really proud. The people who work at Arapahoe County, I want you to know, are really fine, dedicated people who care deeply about providing services for our residents. And that's what I'm really proud of. I work with amazing, amazing people, including Luke.
Well, yeah. Speaking as an employee, we're grateful for the leadership we're getting, and I think most, if not all of us, have been really surprised at how well we could execute this stuff virtually, and so that's been a real eye opener too. And and we're going into 21, looking for ways to be more efficient, as you mentioned initially at the strategic plan slide earlier in the presentation. So before we sign off, there's a couple of sort of just quick detail questions. One question is about where the testing site is in Centennial, and that is at 13050 East Peakview, which is right behind the Centennial City Hall. It's near Arapahoe and Revere. And that is open 7 days a week from 8 to 6. It will be closed Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day. But other than that, it'll be open through the end of the year at least. And then there's another question here about the construction in Mississippi and South Parker Road. That's actually in Denver County. And I would go to denvergov.org to get more information about that intersection. There's some construction going on there, I believe, this weekend. So that is a Denver issue. And then the last question,
Luke, hang on.
Commissioner. Yep.
Not a Denver issue. It's a joint issue with our Open Spaces Department and Denver.
Oh, okay.
And we are building an underpass for the Highline Canal using Open Spaces money. So
Okay.
sorry to
No, that's great.
with that, but I think it's really exciting because it's a really dangerous crossing, and we are putting funds in, as well as Denver, to create that underpass so that people can walk and cycle safely across Mississippi.
Yeah, that is that's great.
Yeah.
It's it's sort of a three-way intersection, I believe, and the traffic is routed along side streets, is my guess, but I don't have specifics. But a picture of the project is on the Denver Gov site. So, last question: will the county continue operations if we go into another lockdown?
Oh yeah, we did not stop during the first lockdown. We won't stop now. It is important for us and for you that you get the services that you deserve. Even our clerk and recorder has managed to get things online so that if they need to go online, they can. The only thing that kind of gets stopped are jury trials, and that gets put on hold. But almost everything else just keeps going.
Sure does. Well, with that, we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank Commissioner Jackson for a very informative discussion. The recording of this event will be available within about 24 hours. And I encourage everyone to go to arapahogov.com/town hall to look up past COVID town halls, because there are telephone town halls, many of which are COVID related. Because there's just a lot of really good information in those, and they often have a theme, whether it's schools or mental health. So you can really get the expert opinions on that. And we will be seeing you again early next year with the next round of conversations with the commissioner. And I just want to thank Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Luke, and thank you everyone for attending. Again, my email is njackson@arapahogov.com. So contact me. We can have virtual coffee together if you like. Take care. Be healthy. Wash your hands. Wear your mask.